Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Thailand, coming to you from, where are we? We're at Dean and DeLuca again at Boat Lagoon in Phuket. And thank you very much for joining us. Now, it's the third day of Songkran, so it's a public holiday. So let's get rid of my bag over here. Make the set look a bit better. Move the cushions a bit. Just try and make things look better for you. So, okay, let's get stuck into the program. I was going to have a talk about some of the things happening in the news to start off, and then we'll get into all your questions. Hello to Hans, to Sick Puppy, of course. He's in Pattaya. He seems very proud about that and happy to tell us. And we've also got Brad. Hi, Brad. Hello, Hans. Hello, Brad. Oh, there's Brad. Okay, sorry. Hello, Night Bazaar, I should be saying. I'm drinking peppermint tea with a little bit of lemon in it today, although our main sponsor is coffeeculture.asia. Cheers to you on the third day of Songkran. All right, let's get stuck into some of the news. So a few things happening that I think are quite interesting, which are not necessarily to do with COVID, so I'm sorry if you want to hear all about COVID today. I'm not really going to talk much about it. I haven't even checked today's numbers. But there's an interesting story. It's a photo. It's a photo of the Shinawatra clan in Dubai. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Shinawatra clan have cast a shadow over Thai politics for the past 2 decades. Well, 22 years to be exact. It was back in 2000 that Thaksin Shinawatra came to power as the elected Prime Minister in Thailand. He was the first person to really sort of weaponise, I think that's a good use of the word, the huge amount of Thai population outside of Bangkok. And this is important because most Thais live outside Bangkok. I mean, Thailand is an audience of some 67 million people. Bangkok is just 12 million people, give or take. So if you could empower the people outside Bangkok to vote and win their hearts, you've won the election. And you've won every single election after that. And that's pretty much what's happened, where the Thai Party, which then became Pheu Thai, basically the red shirt favouring parts of Thai politics, have been able to win every single election, contested election since 2000. And now we've got the spectre of a third Shinawatra, given that we had Thaksin Shinawatra, and then we had his sister Yingluck Shinawatra, and she was thrown out in 2014 by the NCPO, led by the army, and they sort of morphed into what is now the current government after a general election back in 2019. This photo is actually very powerful because it shows the, well, I haven't got the photo. I don't know how to show you photos or share video with you, so you'll have to wait for the real Good Morning Thailand to come back next week when I've got the smart people being able to show you things. But the photo's got the whole Shinawatra clan all gathered round in their Songkran shirts, and it's sending a very potent message that the Shinawatra family is alive and well, although both Yingluck and Thaksin live outside of Thailand, mostly in London and Dubai, as fugitives. How old is she? Patong Tan is, I think she's in her 30s. She is the daughter, the youngest daughter of Thaksin Shinawatra, and she's been given a very important job, sort of a big marketing and patron position at Pheu Thai, and it could be that she could be the nominated Prime Minister for the Pheu Thai party were they to come to government in the next election. And there she was with the other Shinawats and a whole lot of sort of red shirt sympathisers in Dubai with that photo. So I thought that's a really interesting photo, and it's going to be quite interesting next year when we have another general election. You would imagine, if the polls are to be believed and if you sort of read the vibe of the Thai population, that Pheu Thai will probably get the highest number of votes. And then there's the Move Forward Party, which was originally the Future Forward Party, led by Kanaton. I can't pronounce his last name, so I won't even try, embarrass myself. And then there's also other opposition parties, and there's the Bumjai Thai Party, which was able to get 51 MPs to Parliament in the last election, becoming the fifth highest voted for party. That's led by our friend Anatun, and they stood on one platform, and that is the legalisation or the decriminalisation of marijuana in Thailand. And fascinating that they were able to get so many votes just on that single platform. And of course he ended up becoming the public health minister and a power broker, because without those 51 MPs, the ruling Palang Pracharat Party, which came third as far as the highest number of votes in the last election, they were able to cobble together a loose coalition with not just Bumjai Thai but also the Democrats and about 21 other individual MPs. So it's an interesting situation in Thailand, and you can almost guarantee that those opposition red shirt sort of parties are going to win the election as far as sheer numbers are concerned, but then there'll be the cobbling together of the different disparate groups and see whether Palang Pracharat can again get over the line with the number of votes they need, the number of MPs in Parliament, which is 50% plus one. They have a very small majority at the moment. So anyway, there you go. A bit of a very quick history. That photo I saw this morning I thought spoke volumes about the future of Thai politics, and that shadow of the Shinawatra family, like them or not, casting wide all the way to Dubai. Get to your comments and questions. If you've got a comment to make, maybe write the word comment in caps, or if you've got a question, write the word question in caps, because I'm sort of the chief judge and executioner and water boy here today, looking after the show and trying to monitor your comments and questions as best I can, and not doing a particularly good job at it, but filling in the time until we get back to Good Morning Thailand next Monday with Jay and the team. So just very quickly saying hello to Scott D, the Fonz, we've got Kim, we've got Pudsey Boy, Gifted Shell Harbour, Paul Henry, we've got Maria, good morning from Australia in Mooloolaba. Now Mooloolaba is definitely one of my favourite spots. I love the Sunshine Coast up there in Australia. Do hope I get back there one day. If I was going to retire in Australia, probably be somewhere around Mooloolaba. Who else we got? We've got Scott, we've got JS, Damien Jesser made the mistake of wearing a red shirt in Chiang Mai a few years ago, he says. Luckily, I'm a foreigner. Thumper Squid, we've got AJF, and we've got Jamie J and Mackie. M-A-K-Y. I don't know how am I meant to pronounce your name. Some of you got some really strange names, like NYC Girl UES. All right, now water splashing. Yesterday, we had the optics, can you imagine this, of the army going into Khao San Road to stop people from using their water pistols. Now, for the past 3 days, there has been quite a large group of mostly foreigners who have been getting out there and using their water pistols. They don't know where they're getting their water from. There's a nearby canal there, but I hope they're not firing that water at anybody. So interesting situation where we've got the troops, the army going in. Just think how much good they might actually be able to do if they were using their time and their efforts and their considerable skills to actually get out on the roads and stop some of the carnage on Thailand's roads. But no. They were going in to well, not only stop, but apparently confiscate the weapons used by some of these foreigners. And there was even a photo, I think it was posted on the Thailand Post website, and it was a photo of the police. You know how they sort of parade all their booty and all the drugs and things they found? They did one of those photos with 4 or 5 of them standing and pointing at about 10 water pistols. Really? And these sort of photos, of course, get spread around the rest of the world. And people in far-flung countries must be scratching their heads thinking, what in earth are these people doing? What's going through their head? Shows you sometimes that the military, for all their best intentions, are maybe not the best people to feel the mood of the meeting and supervise an event like Songkran. Now, we predicted, and it's been shown to be true, that Songkran was always going to have some breakouts. And the truth is, a lot of these foreigners probably don't know that there was a ban on water splashing. Now, if you think about it, there's been, as you know, a debate over the past couple of years. Thank you very much, Nicholas. Thank you. Got some water to keep me going. I've lost my train of thought. Isn't that always happens to me? What was I talking about? Somebody tell me what I was talking about. Dean and DeLuca, that is some high-so eats, says the Foo Bar Traveller. Yeah, well, actually, it's not the cheapest place to have breakfast in Thailand, but they kindly allow me to sit here in the corner and use their 5G. I actually was going to go to another place today, but there was a bit of a traffic snag, so I had to turn around and come back. So this place happens to be relatively close to where I live, so it's convenient. And at the end of the day, it's what we talk about that really matters. I think we were talking about water splashing. So another optic yesterday, this was on Songkran back on Wednesday, was some protesters, some anti-government protesters, including some of the popular ones who are currently out on bail. They were protesting at the Democracy Monument. So that seems to be a good idea, but the protest wasn't waving placards. The protest wasn't any violence. They weren't doing anything other. They were going to pour water on the Democracy Monument to show respect and perhaps show support for the concept of democracy in Thailand. It was completely non-violent. So how did the police react? They got out the water cannons. Ironically, the police used water cannons to break up a Songkran protest. So, I'm looking forward to seeing some of that video. Be assured these days that everybody's got their camera out and they're going to shoot these things. So that'll be another interesting optic to share to the rest of the world as we see the photo of water cannons being used to break up some protesters protesting peacefully at the Democracy Monument. Now, it may be they weren't wearing masks. It may be they were assembled in numbers larger than the government currently allows under its Songkran rules. And maybe, technically, the police had every right to break up the protest. Not even sure if the protesters got permission. But it's still a very bad optic when the police go quite heavy-handed and use their water cannons to break up some young protesters who are really just trying to wish Thailand a democratic future. And that's all they were doing. Anyway, we'll find out more about that and hopefully get some comments from the police about why they thought it was appropriate to use water cannons, ironically, on Songkran to break up that protest. So, the Thai PBS reported that, by the way, and it'll be also reported later today in the Thaiger when we get some further information. They poured water on the Democracy Monument, drenched each other with buckets of water and played with water guns, all in defiance, of course, of the government's anti-COVID no water splashing restriction. Strange in that case, in Khalsan Road and in Bangla Road down in Phuket, amongst other places, that the police didn't bring the water cannons in and break up those particular use of water guns. So it just may be that they were targeting the protesters. Another thing I just wanted to have a talk about, which I'll do a little bit later, was got to find where I wrote about it. It was about Elon Musk, who is offering to buy all of Twitter, not just the 9% he currently owns, but he's going to buy out the whole of Twitter. We'll get to that a little bit later. Let's get to some of your comments as we say good morning to the Big W, to Tom, to PG Santa, whose comment is LOL, obviously in reference to something in this feed, which I haven't read, nor can I read. Roy, we've got Brad, Sandy, Chugsy, Teacher Raquel. Are you a teacher, Raquel? Are you in Thailand? And we've also got John Priest. Hey, drop your guns, hands in the air. Indeed. Okay, so let's go to some of your comments and see what we can find. If there's anything we need to talk about at the moment before I have a chat about Elon Musk. Travel and Bob, for breaking up a water fight crowd, use water cannons. Yeah, it seems to make sense, doesn't it? And Blue Moon says, I met Taxon and his daughter at Manchester City, I'm assuming you mean. Had a photo with them, a lovely man. Thaksin, the former Prime Minister of Thailand, he was elected twice to the position. He is either loved or hated. He's very polarising, both amongst Thais and also foreigners who seem to think they understand the intricacies of Thai politics. He was a businessman, and it may be, as is alleged by the army and the police and the government, that he used his position to feather his own nest and to better his own situation in the private world. But he did do a lot of good for Thailand, and I suppose we need to look at the good as well as the bad. He introduced the universal healthcare, which still exists in Thailand and is a very good system. I've used the universal healthcare system here many times, go in and had a number of very simple procedures and even just emergency, what would you call it, food poisoning situations, and it's never cost me a cent. Had a friend last year, I think I shared this with you, and he actually had, I'm trying to think of the actual name of the procedure. It's where they probe up your bottom and see what's happening inside your intestines. We had one of those checks and it was found that there was some cancer there. So they went in and they did an exploratory, and then they tested that and they decided to go in and cut a bit out and rejoin it all together. Quite a lot of procedures, including 3 operations. And it also included about a total of 2 to 3 weeks in hospital and some aftercare, a lot of medication, tests, etc., etc. Now, the bottom line is that he was able to go in and have the test and get into hospital within 2 or 3 days of those tests and have the procedure done. He said that he's from England. He was saying that if he was in England, it would have cost him probably a lot more, although he would have got a certain amount of cover from the English healthcare system. But more than that, he could have waited up to 6 to 12 months for that procedure. And of course, once you've got a colon cancer type situation, you need to get it attended to very, very quickly. But he was able to get it done immediately, and it cost him precisely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, I mean, we do hear the odd horrible story about what happens in hospitals, not only in Thailand, but anywhere in the world. We don't get to hear about the 99.9% of people that go in and have perfectly good care. But I found the universal healthcare in Thailand very good. So I think Thaksin will always be remembered for introducing that. And he also introduced agricultural subsidies to the farmers of Thailand, which really still are the backbone of the Thai economy. But he does have his detractors, I understand that, and a lot of stories about what he's been doing in regards to feathering his own nest with some of the Thai companies. Somebody saying hello to me over there. For breaking up a waterfront, scrolling down, NHS in the UK is free, says Toby Price. Yes, it's a colonoscopy. Thank you very much. I knew you'd jump to my assistance there. Colonoscopy, a thing that all people, especially men apparently, should have. I think once they're over 40, it's recommended. I have to admit that I haven't actually had one. I have a high roughage, high fibre diet. I hope that is keeping my insides clean, but I know I should go and have one. The irony, says the Fonz, of using water on people for using water, indeed, and that won't be lost on the international audience when I'm sure that's shared. Damien Jesser says, gifted Shell Harbour, I am from Shell Cove. Oh, okay. Happy Easter, Tim and Tiger team. Thai farmer Ben. It's Good Friday, isn't it? Happy Good Friday. I'm not sure what you meant to say on Good Friday, but it is Good Friday, and of course for Christians around the world, a very important and significant day for them. And we'll have Easter Sunday coming up when kids in the West or in Christian countries will be opening up their chocolate Easter eggs. I have to say, over the last 3 or 4 years, I haven't been able to find a chocolate Easter egg anywhere. Not a single Easter egg. Really interesting. I might go out to the supermarkets over the next couple of days, even the more popular Farang type supermarkets, and see if I can find an Easter egg, but usually very, very hard to find. Okay, NHS isn't free, says Boda Zephyr. It's paid for by national insurance. It's not great as people have to wait days, if not weeks, to talk to a GP on the phone. Yeah, look, there are public health systems around the world that are better or worse. There are people who have good experiences and plenty of people who have bad experiences. It's bothering me that should be maybe over there. I think that'll look a bit better. Got to get the frame right, you know. So, yeah, I mean, even in Australia, they've got a public healthcare system and it generally works quite well. But you do pay for it with your taxes and with contributions that you make. And here in Thailand, a bit of money is taken out of our wages. So we are paying for our healthcare. But once you get to the hospital, whether you're a poor farmer or whether you're a wealthy owner of a media company, you do get looked after exactly the same. And I think that's the idea of universal healthcare. JJ says, Bill healthcare is outrageous in your country. Talking to Bill, who must have made a comment a bit earlier on. Tighten the jib, it's flapping around. Well, of course, we are I've got a fan here in front of me keeping the phone cool. So it is wobbling around. I'll just jibe the boat and see if we can improve its tacking ability as we keel haul the main brace and fondle the gunnels. Trying to use a few nautical terms. By the way, the photo of me at the start of this, the thumbnail I think they call it, was taken just out here. If I can turn the camera around and show you. There it is. That's a boat there. I think it's called an OK dinghy. And it was apparently, the story about that particular boat, it was used by His Majesty, the former King of Thailand, King Bhumibol Adulyadej, when he was sailing in the Olympics in 1972. I haven't got the full story, but I think that's an OK dinghy, and it was in fact used by the former King of Thailand. But if you're wondering what that boat is, that's the story, or at least the story as far as I know it. Okay, back to your comments. Comment from James Geyer. Hi, James. I'm looking forward to being a tourist in Thailand again this autumn. You'll have to tell us what autumn is. Is it autumn now or is it autumn in the Northern Hemisphere, which will be later this year? I get very confused about the seasons. Have been home. Oh, God, it's disappeared. Have to drag that up here. Have been home from Chiang Mai, CM, for 2 months and missed Northern Thailand. Yeah, very hot up in Northern Thailand at the moment. And as I noted the other day, they've sort of escaped the worst of some of the air pollution, the smoke and the smog up there. This year it's been better than in the past. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think last year was particularly bad. Well, there's been a few years where it's been really bad. So, okay, Chiang Mike. Question, with the lesser majest as they are, how could anyone effectively challenge the Prime Minister in an election? Wouldn't any criticism of the government put you at risk of going to jail? The lesser majest laws, which I think is Article 112 of the current Thai constitution, doesn't refer to the leadership or the army or the Prime Minister or the government, refers only to the head of state of Thailand. So the law is that you can't criticise the head of state or members or direct members of the royal family. It's got nothing to do with the government. So you can actually criticise the government as much as you like. Now, I have to say, and a lot of people think, oh, you know, it's sort of a dictatorship here in Thailand. But when you go to media conferences with the Prime Minister, and I've been to a couple of them, or with other ministers, including Anaton, the Thai media give them a caning. I mean, they really go for it. I've seen some pretty brutal journalism over the years and some difficult questions, and the Thai media, sort of in their own Thai style, very polite way, ask some really difficult questions, and you can see the Prime Minister getting quite flustered sometimes by wanting to appear to be there and answer all their questions, but getting quite frustrated at the heat that is made by Thai journalists. Now, the Thai journalists don't sort of get arrested and disappear or get thrown into prison, unless, of course, they print something or say something that's defamatory or libelous, which can happen in any country in the world. But as far as freedom of the press here in Thailand do get a pretty good go, and I've seen them really tackle some big issues and made me squirm being a foreigner. I mean, definitely questions I wouldn't ask as a foreigner, excuse me. So yeah, the lèse majeste, L-E-S-E-M-A-J-E-S-T-E, a French term, is only about criticism or libel of the royal family of Thailand or the King of Thailand. So hopefully that helps Chiang Mike. Ryan Bishop says, it's a democracy. If you don't criticise elected officials, it's a dictatorship. The royal family deserve respect always or stay out of Thailand. Well, okay, I'm not going to get too much into the royal family. At the end of the day, Thailand is a constitutional monarchy. It has the King of Thailand as its head of state. He doesn't usually get involved in politics, as happens with a lot of constitutional monarchies, including Australia, where the Queen of England is the constitutional head of and the head of state of Australia, although she has a stand-in called the Governor-General, who basically attends her role in Australia and opens government and opens kindergartens and plants trees. But in Thailand, the monarch doesn't usually get involved in politics and is pretty hands-off, I've seen. There may be a hot phone between the palace and Parliament House. I'm not aware of that. Maybe he puts his shoe in from time to time to make some comments, but on a day-to-day basis, the Thai Parliament seems to operate relatively independently, maybe with a few puppet strings from the army or the elite or the Bangkok yellow shirts, however you might want to frame that. But it does generally act as a relatively fairly democratically operating parliament, although the way they elected, you could suggest, wasn't democratic, may have had a few of those puppet strings pulled. But it is recognised around the world as a sovereign government, and Thailand is a sovereign country. That's really my take about that whole situation. A question, when is our friend with the beard coming back, says R. Lambert. You might be referring to Jay. And Jay, at the moment, he would have now a 6-day beard. And let me tell you, he shaves in the morning. By the time he gets to work about an hour later, he's already got a beard showing. So we're expecting to see somebody who's going to look pretty rough around the edges, and if he has his lumberjack Fridays, it might look like he's having a lumberjack all of the week. By now, how long will he keep the beard? I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be a fan, but I don't particularly care if he wants to wear a beard. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. Where do you get your haircut, says John Mead. I cut it myself. What's left of it? Little bits here on the side and the back. I've got a trimmer at home. And once a week, it takes me about 2 minutes and it's done. And the best thing, when I wake up in the morning, my hair already looks perfect. Rusty Graves says, in some countries, such as here, democracy doesn't seem to work very well. I don't know where here is, Rusty. You might have to tell me, I'm not a mind reader. Jack says, Thaksin ordered the police to shoot and kill drug dealers, and they shot around 2,000. Yeah, Jack, that was an interesting time. They had the war on drugs in Thailand, and like President Duterte in the Philippines, they activated a sort of a squad of people to go around and do extrajudicial killings of drug dealers. Now, there's been a lot written about that, and some of the numbers vary between 200 to even 2,500 people, mostly drug dealers, who were, well, if you like, murdered during that time. And it's certainly not anything that the Thaksin government should be proud of. But at the same time, Thailand did have its own problem with drugs. It still does, and it doesn't look like that war on drugs or the death of those 200 to 2,500 people did any good. You're right, it certainly wasn't a good part of his government. Always great information, says Prep for It. Prince Tom, just watch some of my videos. You might have the royal blood to have purple clouds follow you in the sky for all to see. Lucy in the sky with Thai farmer Ben says, shave it off, Tim. You'll look younger, ha ha ha. Well, actually, I have done that once, and I sort of looked a bit like Yul Brynner and the King and I. It's not a good look, actually. I'm a bit better off with a little bit of fur, just keeping it trim. But I don't know why there's any colour in it. Most people my age are well gone grey, but I've still got a little bit of brown in there, and I don't add it, so I'm proud of that. Excuse me. Rusty Graves says, and I think this is right, most Thais are taught not to question authority. It's reflected in the Thai education system, which is sort of a chalk and talk system where teacher up the front on the board writing things, kids writing notes, and they're basically taught to respect their elders, taught to respect authority, not to question authority. And that does make it fairly easy when it comes to edicts like wearing masks or do this or do that. The Thai people are usually quite compliant and obedient. At the same time, these growing protest movements, these young people who are seeing a future of Thailand with a properly formed democracy, it's quite exciting to watch this and seeing them enunciate their vision for a better Thailand. The fact that they really can't get, they get a few thousand people to these protests. Sometimes they've even had over 10,000 people, but they're not going to get the 20,000, the 100,000, the 500,000 people to these protests that they really need to make some sort of difference. And so they need to keep on working on a good, solid message and keep standing for Parliament to see some real change. What else have we got? Is Japan open to tourism? Asked Gido George. No, it's not. Japan still is closed to tourism. You can go there, I think, if you're a diplomat, if you're a businessman, if you've got a special business visa, if you've got a family reason to return or, special circumstances. But as a tourist, you can't just go there to go and see the blossom in Kyoto this time of the year. So there you go. Tim's an Aborigine and a boomerang expert, says Jack. I actually can throw a boomerang, and I can throw a proper boomerang and make it come back. Yes, I have learned how to throw a boomerang. As far as being an expert on Aborigines, no, I'm not. I mean, I've met plenty of Aboriginal people, the original native custodians of the Australian continent, but and I've got a lot of respect for them and understand a lot of the challenges they've been facing since white man first turned up back in the from 1770. Still, it's something that the Australian Parliament and numerous commissions have been addressing, and all I can say is, as far as I know, in my home country, that situation is slowly improving thanks to the goodwill of a lot of people who are trying to make things work. Anyway, not really a subject for this. We're here to talk about Thailand. Hello, Tim. Question, says the chairman. Hello, Tim. Did Mike, with the tiny dog, your occasional co-presenter on GMT, ever make it back to Thailand? Yes, he did. He's actually been to and fro out of the country, I think 3 or 4 times since he was standing in for me for some 2 weeks. That tiny dog's called Charlie, and still pops into the office from time to time to terrorise the troops. Yes, that's Mike and his owner, Charlie. Yeah, Mike's definitely still around, and he's still leading up the leadership team for the overarching company that oversees the Thaiger and its activities. Liking the nautical theme. Thank you, Rama. Yes, I'll just turn the camera around. You can sort of see the restaurant. Definitely somewhat of a nautical theme here, and happy to sit amongst it. We've got some friends coming in at 11 this morning for one of their birthday parties, so we'll be having some pancakes or something, or maybe a bit of cake. In the UK, Tim's hairstyle is known as the Irish Mohawk. Thank you very much, Rusty Graves. Do the Thai people enjoy the new Abba album? Says the Snives. I'm not sure if I can really answer that. I liked the new Abba album. There were 2 songs on there in particular I thought were really, really good. remembering that ABBA are now in their 70s, and certainly the last album they're going to be making. But as a sort of a comeback, some 40 years after they broke up, I thought it was a very good work of music. ABBA aren't really a thing here in Thailand. They've never, you sort of see Elvis, they love Elvis, they love some of the rock bands, trying to think of other Western bands that they've got their own music and they love their own musicians, their own celebrities, their own stars. The internet is just full of Thai celebrities, Thai soap operas, Thai musicians. So some of the Western musicians that we chase and we enjoy are not really a thing here in Thailand, including ABBA. Dean and DeLuca needs to advertise on the Thaiger. Right, I couldn't agree more. And if we say Dean and DeLuca, Dean and DeLuca, Dean and DeLuca 3 times, might register on some of their media capturing apps. We'd be very happy. Question: when will Thailand make the 90-day reporting work online? This from Gunnar Horpestad. Hope I pronounced your name properly. The 90-day reporting is something that all foreigners with just about every visa, but not all, have to do. So you have to report to immigration or have somebody report for you to immigration, and that doesn't just happen automatically. It's got to be somebody who the immigration agree to being a sort of a contractor on your behalf or acting on your behalf. So the 90-day reporting you have to do, strangely enough, every 90 days. They did set up an online portal, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and sometimes it works and often it doesn't. And on some days it'll work with some people and it won't work with others. And some days it works with some software and not with others. It's Thais generally, when they do anything on apps from a government level, they don't seem to do a lot of checking to see if it works. And sometimes, like the Thai immigration website, it's in Thai. Go figure. Okay, so somebody, Chris Bucko, your comment got blocked by YouTube. So I won't read it out because YouTube has blocked it already. Prince Tom, I'm just asking the Thaiger crew, do your homework, please. Oh God, you're just flogging your video channel, which we're not going to do because it's difficult enough for us to promote our video channel. By the way, speaking of which, because it's YouTube, could you click that like button, subscribe to the channel? We would be most grateful because not only our members but also general subscribers are an important part of propelling the channel to wherever we're going. The more subscribers we have, the more people will get to see our material, and the members, of course, financially actually make things happen, which we really appreciate. Okay, Greg Gray says, this is such shite. Thank you very much, Greg. Suggest you perhaps tune into something else that you don't find such shit. John Mead says, Bitchin' Thaiger t-shirt, is that available? Yeah, these are available, and turn around so you can see at the back. So they are available, yes. They're at our shop, and we've also got polo shirts for people that prefer polo shirts. Polo shirts are a little bit thicker, and they're a little bit more expensive. Not much, but so if you go to the Thaiger shop, you can see the prices. If you're in Thailand, you can organise a checkout. If you're from overseas, then we will you send us an email, we'll send you an email, and we'll work out the postal costs to wherever you are, anywhere around the world. I'm not in the big. I can check, can't I? I can check the Thaiger /shop. The Thaiger.com/shop. Let's look up the cost of the t-shirts, and hope everything else keeps working while I'm doing this. Internet's a bit slow, maybe because some idiot's streaming. It's me. I don't know, for whatever reason, it's not coming up. It'll come up eventually, and we'll talk about the cost of the t-shirts. But yeah, these are available at thetiger.com/shop. If you're from overseas, send us an email and we'll cost of the T-shirts. Backcaps, T-shirts, that's Vanderbilt. Where's our merchandise products? Here we go. Also got the Vanderbilt luxury goods, the watches, the sunglasses, here we go. Tiger polo shirt costs, finding out for you. The polo shirt, oh dear, just got slow internet today, and the cost is, we've also got a size chart there with Natty showing us the different sizes, and it actually measures chest and body length and things, so you can work out exactly the right size. This is a large, and Jay wears an extra large, for example. I think we have a 2XL as well but we don't, if you're like really big, we don't have a shirt size for you. I still can't find the damn cost. What am I doing here? Can't even use my own website. Anyway, you've got more time than I have, so I suggest you jump on, and it'll be at checkout, I suppose. But we've got the polo shirts, we've got the cups, the mugs, we've got the carry bags, the tote bags, I think they're called. And anyway, we've got the paintings as well. I won't flog our merchandise anymore because I know you'd rather talk about Thai politics and stuff, which we shall do. John Mead, is it difficult to run a business in Thailand as a foreigner? What are the hurdles and complications? What are the advantages? John, that is the topic for a mini-series, something I can't cover easily in a couple of minutes. Yes, there are hurdles. Yes, there are complications. Yes, it can be very challenging. It depends what industry you want to do and how you want to operate in Thailand. To run a small business, it's quite expensive, all the administration and hassles you have to go through. For a larger business, then the proportion of the administration sort of gets less. I mean, at the Thaiger, we've got some 28 staff. We can employ as many as we like. We'll probably be up to 50 staff by the end of this year. And then the cost of the administration proportionately get less. But you've got to keep on top of the taxation, the administration, the work permits. All that stuff is very, very important in Thailand. You might get away with firing your water guns during Songkran. You might get away with a little bit of this or that. But when it comes to immigration, the Labor Department, there's just no way around it. And the Thais love their paperwork and fine print. So you have to have a couple of Thais looking after the accounting and the administration, and you need to dot your I's and cross your T's. But working with Thai people can be a lot of fun, and I really enjoy the times I get up to the office up in Bangkok, work with all my Thai staff. It's a really long question, and maybe I should make a specific video about it one day. I've actually written a couple of articles about them, but I'll see if I can. You might just have to search the Tiger starting a business in Thailand. See what you can find. Toby Price says, I went to immigration last week to report and they told me to do it online. You still have to report in person for the first time. If you can't report online, try another search engine. But if you go in and tell them that you've tried to do it online, I suppose they'll allow you to do it at the immigration office. And of course, as I always say, depending on the day you go, the time you go, the person you see, you could get an entirely different answer. But foreigners still need to do 90-day reporting. And if you don't, there is a fine involved. And if you overstay your visa, you'll have to pay a very large fine indeed. You'll probably be deported. A comment. It's easy to make a small fortune in Thailand. Start with a big fortune, says the Big W. Look, I know of many stories, hundreds of people actually over the 11 years I've been here, of people who have come here to open a bar. Now, if you want to do that, good luck to you. And but it's a hard road to hoe, and the Thais can make those little small businesses when you're in a row with other people competing very difficult for you. In the media landscape, we get a little bit more freedom, I suppose, although we try and mind our P's and Q's because we are foreigners operating in a foreign country. But if you just want to come here and open a bar, just be aware that there have been thousands of bars closed around Thailand over the past 2 years because a lot of their businesses just dried up. And I'd also suggest that the type of people coming to Thailand, not only now but in the future, that the mix of tourists has changed, and that the whole bars and beaches scene is something that's definitely going to still be here in Thailand, but there's going to be other parts of the Thailand experience that I think are going to attract a new type of tourist and a growing number of different tourists. It might be wellness, it might be health, it might be ecotourism, it might be getting out and seeing different parts of Thailand than the sort of hackneyed old cliches that people still talk about. I mean, we've been talking for years about all the P's of Pat Pong and Phuket and Pattaya. I think places like Pattaya and Phuket, that they will have a resurgence, but other parts of Thailand will, I think, thrive and grow more in comparison. Even though those places, I'm sure, will resurge, but not the way that they used to be pre-2020. That's my point of view, and I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with me. Just my vibe on the whole thing. Okay, appreciate your perspectives and insights on time matters. A well done fella, says the chairman. Thank you, the chairman. Where are you from, the chairman? You might like to tell us. Bars are a dime a dozen, says M. Maranta. Yeah, they really are, and a lot of people lose a lot of money when they try and run a bar. And there are some very smart operators, and they find the formula. But if you come here and have a Western perspective when you're trying to run a business, you're probably going to lose your money and be disappointed. Question: how many times did you visit Thailand before deciding to make it your new home? Question from Adventurous Foreign and Domestic. Probably visited. I spent a bit of time in 2000 here. I was working with a large music project, and I had quite a lot of money actually. Spent 9 months here, and I lived in Bangkok, and I can honestly say for the first 3 months I hated living in Bangkok, and I did my best to try and leave the country as often as I could, and but there was a time or a day where I suddenly fell in love with the place. Just the clouds opened up and the planets all came into alignment, and I suddenly figured it out. I understood what Thailand was about. I thought I did anyway. And that was the first of probably 7 or 8 visits before I made the decision to pack up and move here. When I actually moved here to Phuket, I'd only visited Phuket once, and I did that to come and spend about 3 weeks here to decide if that's where I wanted to settle. Because I thought if I'm going to go and live in Thailand, I'd like to live near a beach. So I spent a good 2 to 3 weeks here and had a good look around Phuket and fell in love with the island, and it's become my home ever since, although I spend most of my weekdays up in Bangkok. Which is better, renting, buying, or building a house in Thailand? Asked Gio George. Again, that requires a mini-series. For me, I prefer to rent. It gives me a certain amount of flexibility to move around and adjust my lifestyle. And yeah, if you're going to buy property, you can make a lot of money. People have lost money too. But I would suggest if you are going to buy a home or a property or a condo, that you get some really good advice. And as I say often, and perhaps boringly, do your homework and make sure you consult a good agent. And of course, I'm happy to recommend Fazwaz, who are owned by the same people who own part of the Thaiger. So fazwaz.com I think we've got 44,000 properties there to rent or to buy. Tim, did you marry in Thailand? No, I didn't. Wig Alert says always rent. Well, that's your perspective, and that's what I decided to do as well. Triple Jack 82. Nobody understands what Thailand's about. That's why we love it. Yeah, look, there is a certain adventure where you wake up every day and you're not exactly sure what's going to happen. You're not exactly sure what's going to happen with Thai politics, and there is a sense of adventure here, and I enjoy that. I always say that there's a lot of, you need a lot of self-control to live here in Thailand, because the government doesn't, it's sort of not a nanny state like some Western countries. Australia sort of became the thought police. It's really a decision I decided to leave. I was trying to control every aspect of our lives, and I didn't really like that vibe. And I decided to move here to Thailand, where you're really sort of more on your own and you have to make good decisions and you have to have good self-responsibility and self-control. That suits me. It doesn't suit everybody. How much money have you lost here in Thailand? Stephen E.H. Canadian. Well, actually, my financial position is a lot better now after 11 years than when I arrived here. And at some stage, I'll sell my share in the Thaiger, and hopefully that'll be enough for me to retire here. So actually, I've invested some money, but probably it's worth a lot more than it was when I started. So I've done pretty well. 21 years here, I've lived here and I love it, says Dating Guru. John Mead, how do you measure the business impact of the various activities and products that you offer on the Thaiger? John, again, quite a long answer would be required to explain that properly, but we have a lot of different parameters. We have daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports. We have people that look after that, and it's a pretty tight ship. It is, after all, a digital business, and so we can track who, the various, not who, but the age groups and where people are clicking from, and we can see how long people spend on a particular story, how long they sort of watch YouTube. There are a lot of parameters, and we use that to make better decisions for changes. And we know we do change a lot at the Thaiger, but we are doing it because we need to keep changing to keep up to date. And we make more decisions in one day than a lot of media businesses make in the last 2 years. So we really move ahead pretty quickly, and we use the data to help us make informed decisions. M. Moranta, yes, Australia, great for tourists. The statement, he'd sell his mother if he could, is true in Thailand. Australia is too expensive, don't go to Prison Island. Somebody who doesn't like Australia. Look, I still, to use the song, I still call Australia home. In many ways in my heart, but the place that I suppose, made my new home is Thailand. I won't be going back to Australia to live at any stage unless something comes, some black swan event where I need to move back. But no, Thailand's where I'll be settling for the rest of my life, and might be a long one. Excuse me. When Jet and Nat on the show, the likes go higher. I bet then when you have Jay. Actually, we do track the various clicks and views for our different presenters, and we do know who is more popular than other people, and what you think may not necessarily be the truth, but we do keep a track on that. Not that it makes our final decisions, but it gives us some informed information when we decide on the direction we're moving or the people we hire in the future to sit in front of the camera. Just be assured that what you think is the most popular person on our YouTube channel may not necessarily be 100% correct. So, question. If you could travel another else for a few weeks in Asia, where would you go? Or somewhere else? Okay, my answer is I really enjoy a lot of the different countries in Asia. I've been lucky enough to, I think, visit just about I haven't been to South Korea. South Korea is on my list of a place I'd like to go. Interestingly, me and number one are going to go to Bali, probably later this year. It's a decision we've made. I know it's sort of, in some ways, quite similar to, well, maybe living in Phuket on just another island. But we're going to go to Bandung and to Bali, different vibe. And I suppose I just want to go there also just out of interest to see how Phuket's main Southeast Asian competitor as an island, how it's doing, and perhaps do a few reports for you as well. I enjoy Phnom Penh as a city. It's not the biggest or the most interesting city in Asia, but I actually enjoy the vibe in Phnom Penh. which is the capital of Cambodia. Vietnam, I've got a plan to do a motorcycle trip from Hanoi down to Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, and that's a trip I hope to make maybe early next year. Not the greatest fan of the Philippines, but that's just my own personal feeling. When it comes to Malaysia, I prefer Penang to a place like KL. I do like southern Malaysia. Singapore bores me sideways. Don't think there's much to like about Singapore, but I know there's a lot of expats there and a lot of business done there, and a lot of people love Singapore, but I find it bores me sideways. Anyway, look, there's plenty of good places in Asia to visit. Japan also very interesting, and I've been lucky enough to see quite a lot of Japan, including when Mazda flew me to visit the manufacturing plant in Hiroshima, and I got to be shown around the plant there by the son of the original founder of Mazda, and of course got to visit the Hiroshima Memorial as well, which was both very sad and very interesting. There's some great places in Asia, and just because I like them or don't like them doesn't really mean anything. You asked the question. Tim, you're correct about Australia being the nanny state. I emigrated there in 1988 and enjoyed how relaxed it was. Not anymore. I'm retired now, considering moving to Thailand. That's from Richard Evans. Thanks, Richard. That's sort of the vibe I got as well. M. Maranta making a comment about Korean women. I won't repeat that. Singapore is like Bristol in the UK, says Rusty Graves. Haven't been to Bristol, so I can't make a comment on that. Boda Zephyr, why is Cambodia open with no restrictions for the vaccinated when Thailand still has its pass? I can't answer that. You need to ask the Thai or the Cambodian government. When you say it's open, there are still some restrictions in Cambodia. I think you still have to do a test before you get there, but I understand what you're saying. And as I keep on saying, when people say, I'm going to Vietnam, I'm going to Cambodia, I'm going to the Philippines, great if you want to go to those places, but they're not Thailand. If you want to go to Thailand and you find that the Thailand pass is a barrier, then yes, you have other choices in Southeast Asia, but they're not Thailand. Boracay, Philippines was the most beautiful place I've ever seen on this earth, and it cost 5 times more than anywhere else in the Philippines. This from the Snives. I think Boracay's had somewhat of a makeover about 2 years ago, and hopefully they're going to keep it as beautiful as it is. A very beautiful island. Bit hard to get to though, isn't it? Mr. Triple Jack 82, I might put my resume in at the Thaiger. My starting salary is 200,000 Australian, then $300 next year. Good luck to you. Peppermint tea, yes it is a peppermint tea with a slice of lemon in it. A bit cold now, but it's very lemony. What have we got here? Tim is flying solo because of Songkran. Yes, I am flying solo. The normal format for Good Morning Thailand will be back on Monday. It won't just be me rabbiting on for an hour. By the way, at the start of the show, we did actually talk about some stories. Can I talk about Twitter for a moment? Now, this is a very interesting story about Elon Musk and Twitter. And what we're seeing reported in the media obviously isn't the full story. Is this about free speech? Is this about a maverick coming in to change Twitter? Does Twitter need changing? Should it be changed, given that Twitter is a private company and they are, in many ways, well entitled to run it the way they want? Or should it be a public company? Should it be the restrictions be thrown away and people allowed to make any comment they like? Personally, I think that's a big mistake, and I think that's a problem that social media has. A lot of social media, like Facebook, for example, which was started for Mark Zuckerberg to pick up girls, suddenly became something that could be weaponized to change the outcome of elections. And that happened with Brexit, and it happened in the 2020 US election. So the 2016 US election. So there are problems with the social media. I don't think as a culture we've got our heads around how to use it. As a civilization, it's something we're going to have to cope with because social media is not going away. But Elon Musk offering now to buy Twitter and offering, I think, to pay shareholders some $54, 20 US dollars for each share. I think it totaling some 38 billion US dollars. I think that's all right. I'm sure you'll tell me if I'm wrong. The problem I have is that if you think Twitter has problems now with its current board of directors and shareholders, what's it going to be like when one person operates it? That doesn't sound like a situation that's set up for a fruitful and democratic future. Freedom of speech with one person running it? I'm not sure if that is real freedom of speech. Freedom of speech does have responsibility, and just letting people say whatever they like and make whatever claims they want on social media is not a good future for social media. There needs to be some sort of control. There needs to be some rules. There needs to be some laws. Now, at the moment, we haven't got that mix right. Even at the Thaiger, we have to have some sort of control, some sort of guidelines for the way that people comment on our Thaiger Talk forum, for example, here on YouTube. And people can't just make random comments and random claims. They can't make remarks that are libelous about me or my staff or about the Thaiger brand. And you can't do that just randomly. If you've got problems, you can send me an email. I'll try and address every email as truthfully and as thoughtfully as I can. But Elon Musk owning Twitter, I don't think, even though I get the reasons that he thinks he wants to upgrade and change Twitter, I don't think one person owning a social media as powerful, with some 200 million users every day, is good for Twitter's future. I don't use Twitter. It's not really popular here in Thailand, to be honest. But I know it's popular in a lot of Western countries. A lot of people rely on Twitter. Some people actually build their business model around using Twitter. But I think one person owning Twitter is not a good idea. What do you think? Go to some of your comments. We'll probably do another 5 minutes and then we'll say a fond farewell. Jolly Fox, Twitter was politically weaponised against Conservatives in the 2020 election. This is part of the problem. And what's to say that Elon Musk won't weaponise Twitter for his own gains? We don't know. A benign dictator might be better than a board of directors, but we don't know. Okay, comment from the Big W. The left media's censorship and manipulation of the truth is a huge issue. Well, when it comes to manipulation of the truth, I think there's plenty of fault on both sides. And I think there's plenty of evidence to show that. And I watch some of the right media, some of the left media, and some of the media in the middle. I watch, 10 or 20 different media every day, trying to catch up with the headlines in the news. And it's very obvious to me where a lot of the manipulation is happening. And it happens on both sides. Wig Alert says now that Elon has run up the share price, he should just sell his 9% stake and earn a few billion. Well, you might be right there too. Is it his way of making a bit of extra money to fund his rockets? I don't know. LOL at Conservatives, says Travis M. Larry Connolly says, if Musk shut Twitter down, he loses billions. That's another thing. He could buy Twitter and turn it off. Throw $38 billion in the toilet. I think that's extremely likely. But if you don't like something, it's certainly one way to do it, isn't it? Emma Miranda, colleges are full of leftist gorillas. Really? Okay, thank you. Chuck Key says, if you test positive at the airport, moving away from Twitter for a moment, can you choose a flight to go somewhere else, Cambodia for example, or will they only let you go back to your home country? I don't know, Chucky. That's a really interesting question. Assumedly, once you test positive, you've already been stamped into Thailand by immigration. And I don't believe they'd... I don't know. Maybe they will, I don't know. I think you would be able to leave the country. The airline would obviously have to be informed, and they may treat you by sitting in by yourself at the back of the plane or something with a mask on. You have to wear masks on the planes anyway. I don't know the full answer for that, and I'm sorry I can't give you some advice. Hans Schellenberg comment, and thank you to one of our members. Elon Musk's libel against British caver Vernon Unsworth says it all. In response to criticism, a narcissist will go to great pains to devalue or invalidate the person criticising them. Yeah, I mean, he's got a few priors, hasn't he, Hans? And I think we probably have seen Elon and his behaviour over the last few years. Obviously, extremely talented. But is he the sort of person to run a social media platform and make all the decisions? Well, that's a decision for the shareholders and Elon to make. I don't personally think it's a good idea. Thank you very much for your comment. A few more. Wayne Bishop, the last 3 shows have been fantastic. These live Q&A sessions are great. Let's hope that they appear in some form in the future. Yeah, look, I mean, it's quite easy to set the camera up and sit here and answer your comments. Probably something I can't keep doing every day. You'll get bored and I'll lose my voice. But something we might be able to do, say, once a week. And I look forward to it. Sick Puppy, thank you for joining the program, a member. Elon is going after Twitter because it's a Democrat-run media company. Is it? That will censor you if you dare speak up against the party. 1984, a great book. Okay, so look, I'm sure people are going to politicise the conversation. My reading of Twitter and just reading about the platform and also sometimes reading stuff on the platform, I have seen some censorship, but again, I've seen it just getting rid of ridiculous comments, not so much censoring one side of politics or the other. Yes, they have banned some fairly high profile from one side of politics, but it may be from some of the comments made. Again, I believe that you can't just say anything on these social media platforms. You can't just stand there and make false claims or provably false comments. And somebody has to be the judge and jury. Now, if you want the judge and jury to be Elon Musk, then that's a decision for the Twitter shareholders. If you want the current board to change its mix, then that's something that the shareholders can address as well. If you want it just to be a public platform where people can say anything, I think that's also a very big, deep rabbit hole that you wouldn't want to be going down. Okay, Hunter Biden's laptop story. Please look up what Twitter did. Sick Puppy. Yeah, I'm aware of their treatment of that particular story. I'm fairly well read about that story, perhaps more read about both sides of it than you are, Sick Puppy. But I appreciate your comments and your point of view on that matter. John Paul Sara. I would love to work with you, not on camera necessarily. I would love to help the Thaiger develop content and production. The thing is, the funny thing is that we can do Good Morning Thailand, and you'll see next week we're going to have me and Jay and Natty, we're going to have a set and we're going to have 3 or 4 cameras, we're going to have a couple of people pressing buttons, and we'll maybe get 20,000 views a day. Hopefully we can grow that to 30 or 40,000 by the end of the year. But I'm also aware that I can pick up the camera and walk down a street in Phuket and talk for half an hour and probably get exactly the same number of views. One person using their phone. So YouTube is a very funny animal. And the more you try and do professional, interesting, compelling, half well-produced programs, even in a relaxed style with non-professional presenters like me, it sometimes is happy to have the unpolished and the unvarnished as it is to have the polished and varnished. It's an interesting platform for us to work with. One more question or comment. Talking about Trump, we're not going to get into that. Okay, here we go. YouTube, New Atlas was also de-twittered for saying the truth, says Mackie. Wow, next week sounds exciting. Look forward to it. Great service to us, bored Farangs. Right, we do our best to keep you interested, and there are plenty of videos still online each day from the Thaiger, even though the team's having a well-deserved break at the moment. And one more, yoga videos get millions of hits. Yeah, maybe I should get a leotard on and do the black swan or the fried grasshopper or whatever they're called. My mother used to do yoga and drag me along. I couldn't be more bored. And she used to get me to go and buy her cigarettes while she was doing yoga. Go figure. YouTube, Twitter and Facebook are all going down. Truth Social is the way, says Valerie Wand. Yeah, okay. We'll soon find out. I mean, Yahoo. I'm trying to think of other brands we don't talk about much anymore. Some of those early media brands have sort of pretty much vanished these days, and maybe where Facebook and other platforms are going as well. But just looking at the growth, still the growth of Facebook, YouTube in particular is growing very, very quickly. Twitter has sort of plateaued somewhat, but it's had a huge growth over the last 10 years. I don't think some of these are going anywhere quickly, and to start a new social media company up against these leviathans is pretty adventurous, and you need a lot of money to fund it. People pushing the Kool-Aid feel marginalised by the media because the media ain't buying it. Neither are the educated. That's from Restless Souls. And yes, MJF Media Group says MySpace is still alive. MySpace, yes, I remember that. I think I had a MySpace account. I don't know what MySpace is doing anymore. I might look it up. One more, and Martin Rollinson says, question, Tim, you seem to put a lot of emphasis on the daily numbers. Do you think these are actually representative of the situation? Well, the thing is, are you talking about the daily numbers for our viewers, for our views, or the daily numbers for people reading the Thaiger, or are you talking about COVID? If you're talking about COVID, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The numbers coming out of the government, which are audited and verified by a number of people. I've been to 2 media conferences. I've met Dr. Tawi, can't remember his name, and I've spoken to the person who presents the media conferences in English. So I've spoken to 3, and I've spoken to them about how they collate the numbers, where the numbers come from. And I actually rate these people. They are doing an excellent job. And the numbers that are published, that the government doesn't see before they're published, by the way, I believe are the most accurate trend indicator of what's happening in Thailand. Now, the numbers will never ever be 100% accurate anywhere in the world, because there are always going to be people catching a thing like COVID who will never be counted, people who die that are incorrectly counted. But as far as showing trends up and down, I think the numbers are a good sign of what's going on. Do I think the numbers are accurate? I don't think the numbers are accurate anywhere in the world, particularly with Omicron variant, which is just so transmissible. I'm 100% sure that there are many, many, many times the number of people who are infected daily. But as far as the CCSA is concerned, the doctor and the people auditing the numbers, they actually go out of their way and they take their job very seriously. So I do believe the numbers are a fair and accurate representation, as best as they can, as to what's happening. That's all I can tell you. If you've got better numbers that are also audited or verified, then I'm really happy to see those as well. But all we can go on, all we can report, and we'd say these are the numbers from the CCSA. We're not saying they're accurate, we're just saying that here are the numbers they report. That's the best we can do. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. And Alta Vista, Netscape, there's some other ones. Tim, are you doing Thaiger Bites this week? AJF. There won't be a Thaiger Bites this week unless I get bored this afternoon, and I won't because I'm actually quite busy. So no, there won't be a Thaiger Bites this week. So apologies, unless Jay and I somehow magically meet up in Phuket and decide to turn the camera on. That's it. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks for being part of Good Morning Thailand for the past 3 days. And we've done our best to try and keep you a little bit up to date with what's going on. No major news, more than I reported. The first 5 minutes I did actually give a bit of an update on some things happening here in Thailand. And of course, we'll bring you up to date with all the latest news at thetiger.com. But from all of us here at The Thaiger, me, thank you very much for watching. Have a fantastic weekend. There are some Thaiger videos coming up, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Not exactly sure if we're kicking off with the new GMT on Monday or if it's Tuesday, but it'll be next week sometime. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic weekend.